Hello, I'm Brooke Watson, and I'm going to be doing a presentation on Daoism. And I just wanted to do a little preference warning. I do have a speech impediment, and I am pretty good at English now after years of practicing, but the Chinese words, sometimes the translations are difficult for me. So if you will bear with me and be patient, I appreciate it so much. And I'm excited to talk about Daoism. Let's learn a little bit about it. The next thing we're going to talk about is the founders of Taoism. And the first one, there is some debate about it, but most attribute it to Lao Tzu. And he is the one who actually wrote the original 81 section, 5,000 character book they consider sacred, the Tao Te Ching and the Tao Te Ching, and that is their book. And also included with some of their sacred writings is another author by the name of Zhu Onzi, and he also contributed to the sacred book and was kind of one of the founders. Also, there is some other anonymous writers who contributed and add through the years, but that's mostly who they put as the founder, and it was about 2,500 years ago, so a long, long time ago. On this slide, we're going to kind of talk about the historian Sima Ton and his son Sima Chenin, and both how they kind of played a role as far as they compiled all the information, brought together the different works, and there was many different anonymous authors as well that added and contributed and updated things. But they kind of brought it all together and helped Taoism really get a foundation to begin to grow. And this was about 2,500 years ago this all began. So this was a long time ago, but they were interesting historians who were an influential part of Taoism. As far as the followers go, it's a very difficult thing to estimate because during the 20th century, China kind of tried to suppress and put down the Taoism religion. So there's somewhere between 20 and 400 million followers. Taiwan right now is kind of the center, and it's the main area where their Taoism is kind of centered. And during the 1960s, it kind of experienced a renaissance and is continuing to grow, and they began to refurbish and rebuild temples. So that's kind of a rough estimate on that. In Taoism, they are a polytheist religion where they have many gods, and they're very open, and so they will accept many new religions. So they, depending on locality, they serve different gods or worship different gods. They also worship the immortals, which are those who've achieved sagehood and have now transcended, and they also worship the ancestors. But they also talk about the mother. She's one of the ones, and there's a quote on this slide from the book of Tao Te Ching, and that is one that they attribute to the creation or birth of the world. They also say that she's a part of the world as well as brought the world to be. So that's kind of their main gods in this religion. The next thing we're going to talk about is the sacred book, and that is, as we spoke of earlier, the Tao Te Ching, and also that includes the works of Zhu Onzi, and that includes their works together, along with some other authors, anonymous authors who have contributed throughout the years. So that's their main sacred book in which they pull text and their philosophy bases from, and it teaches about the way. The next part we'll talk about is life after death, and they don't have like a place you go per se. It's about longevity in life here and now, and then if you succeed at that, you're able to transcend into like the external plane or the universe, and it's somewhat like reincarnation, that they do believe you are continuously, your energy goes back in and you are then created again. It's kind of an over and over never-ending cycle. One quote I wanted to read from the book, the Tao Te Ching, is they go back into the great weaving machine, thus all things issue from the loom and then return to the loom. So they do see it as something of a cycle and never-ending just energy that you are. Now we're going to kind of look at the beliefs and laws of the Daoism, or Taoism, I'm sorry. And so one of them is that there is this Wu Wei, it's called, and it's the idea of non-intervention. It's allowing to be, and like letting nature flow. And so it's not about being lazy, but it's just allowing what will be, will be. There's also they are really big on harmony. So it's about harmony between the yin and yang, which you've probably seen in life before, those symbols. And there's like a light and darkness. And the dark isn't necessarily wrong or anything. It just needs that balance and that unity and the harmony between the two. And then also it's like a harmony like water, and they call them the Taoist Big Five. And it's about altruism, modesty and humility, flexibility, transparency, honesty, gentleness, and perseverance. And those five characteristics are really big within the harmony aspects. It also means to oppose violence and coercion. They're not big on laws, like we said, anti-authoritarian. They don't really like that, or coercion. Also, it means tolerance and appreciation of differences. So they're very open. That is one of their things. To follow the Tao, you must be open. When we say Taoism, it means harmony and exclusion. That's really big, and it's an enlightened perspective, which I think would be useful in this global world today, that we could work together. Also, there's the Tao, that is the three levels of it. And it's the way of the ultimate reality, the way of the universe, and the way of human life. And those are what you're working to find balance in between and to reach kind of like a center up. And I also listed that on your handout, so you might want to look over those. There's some more information on them. And also the yin yang symbol we discussed. It's that two polarized forces that come into balance. So that's kind of what their religion and philosophy is about. Now I'm going to go over some differences and similarities between the two. The first similarity is they both seek humility. The Tao teaching says the perfect person has no self, the holy person has no merit, the sage has no fame. And in Mark, Jesus calls us to be, it says, but shall it not be among you? Whoever is the great among you must be a servant. Whoever must be first must be slave to all. Even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve. So they're both focused on humility and serving others. They also both focus on being still and waiting. In the Tao teaching in section 64, it says, a tree too big to embrace is born from a slender shoot. A 9-story tower rises from the pile of earth. A 1,000-mile journey begins with a single step. Act and you ruin it, grasp and you lose it. Therefore the sage does not act, wu wei, and so does not ruin. And then also it talks about in Psalms 46:10, be still and know that I'm God. So they're both all about like waiting and being patient and having faith in something, either nature or God, like that will work and do what its will. Also, they both speak in like paradoxical ways. Like Jesus used parables, and the Taoism uses like nature to explain things, and kind of like back and forth ways where you need to like use intuition and logical thinking to kind of analyze it and think about it. Now the differences are that Taoism does not have one God, it's polytheism, and whereas Christianity does have one God, and he says you shall have no other gods before me. So that's two definite differences between the two. Taoism does not consider darkness to be sin. It's just like the yin yang, the yin yang, and the balance between dark and light. And whereas in the Bible it does say the wages of sin is death, and it talks about Jesus is the light of the world. So it's more that sin is darkness and needs to be defeated. Whereas Taoism is just something that finds a balance between the two. Also, Taoism believes in like a continual rebirth, whereas the Christianity believes in like heaven, that he is preparing a place for you, and you die, you'll either go to heaven or you'll go to hell. So there's a location after death, and you don't come back from it. So that's definitely different. That's the differences and similarities between the two. I'm going to try to kind of talk quickly. I'm running out of time. But Taoism closely matches a humanistic perspective. However, Lee 2003's article argues that it more closely matches transpersonal psychology perspective, which was proposed in 1960 by Abraham Maslow and Viktor Frankl. And it's involving more of the spirituality of humans, their values and deeper core meanings, and mindfulness and higher thinking. In a study by Cott and Rock in 2009, they pointed to the connection between Daoism and meditation and mindfulness, which we know there's lots of benefits to that. And Shinong and Doris Swaim in 2009 pointed to the cognitive benefits of meditation to reduce cognitive decline and it could possibly slow dementia. They noted meditation reduces stress hormones and many other things. They also looked to the increase of a neuroconductivity and pathways with more meditation. So that's wonderful health benefits. Schreiner and Malcolm in 2008 conducted a study where it was a 10-week study in mindful meditation. They did before and after, and this focused more on the emotional aspects of depression and anxiety. And they found that it did help or decrease anxiety and depression within the individuals. And most excitingly, the ones who are most severe had the best results. So we know that this is definitely something we can implement into our lives. And I do want to say I have one more slide with some notes, some information on it. Feel free to look over that. And I appreciate you hanging with me. And I hope you learned some about Taoism and the benefits of adding some of it into our lives. Thank you so much, and you have a great day.